welcome to your Focus on Sports. I'm Carl Cook.
And I'm Gabe Camarillo.
Let's catch up to speed on what's happened over the past few weeks. The Fresno State water polo team is back-to-back regular season champions after winning the Golden Coast Conference 2 weeks ago. The Bulldogs, ranked number 8 in the nation, defeated Loyola Marymount 9-5 to capture the title. The win marks the Bulldogs' first outright regular season championship, but second championship overall since the program began in 2018.
While we were out on spring break, the Diamond Dogs had big performances both on the mound and at the plate. Eshawn Henderson struck out 11 batters over 7 innings to earn the win over New Mexico 2 weeks ago. He became Mountain West Pitcher of the Week for the 3rd time this season, and the Bulldogs won the series. The Bats got going against Sacramento State last Tuesday. The team hit a record 8 home runs, smashing the previous record of 5 set in 2005. Nate Timian did the smashing last Friday with a grand slam to sink Abilene Christian 9-8.
Fresno State softball started spring break in wild walk-off fashion. The Dogs won their series against Utah State on a walk-off error in the final game. The Dogs then lost their series against the New Mexico Lobos. Fresno State softball is now 5-10 in the Mountain West Conference.
A track and field Bulldog is now in the record books. Let's go to the Pacific Coast Collegiate Meet last week, where Sierra Jackson finished in the top 2 in both the shot put and discus throw. In the shot put, Jackson moved to 4th all-time in program history with a 15.81 meter throw on her 3rd attempt. She finished 3rd overall, but she wasn't done there. Jackson picked up the discus and finished 4th overall in that event. She also moved into 6th place all-time in program history in the discus throw.
The Fresno State women's tennis team is holding on tight to 1st place in the Mountain West. The Dogs improved their undefeated record to 8-0 in Mountain West matches after defeating Air Force 4-2 and New Mexico 4-1 over the weekend. Fresno State has won 11 of its last 12 matches, including its last 10 in a row. The Bulldogs are a mainstay in the ITA Collegiate Tennis Rankings, where they have held a spot over the last 8 weeks. The Bulldogs have clinched at least a top 3 seed for the 2022 Mountain West Championships.
You're going to see a few new Bulldogs next year during basketball season in the Save Mart Center. The women's basketball team added 2 new players to their roster. The first is Alana Chatfield, a 5'8 guard from Melbourne, Australia. She's joined by Thea Mikkelsen, a 5'9 guard who played on Denmark's national team for 5 years. The men's team adds Jordan Brinson, a 6'3 guard from Inglewood, California. Brinson is an NJCAA first-team All-American.
Gabe, what's your standout moment from the past week of Fresno athletics that have taken place?
Well, we missed a lot, obviously. Baseball had that big win over Sacramento State we talked about earlier. I think that might be the highlight of spring break for Fresno State athletics. The Bulldogs football team took a break as well. They're coming back on Wednesday. They're going to continue the spring football practices, and it'll culminate at the end of this month with an April 30th spring preview. So I'll say people are looking forward to that football team, but talking about baseball for a quick second, Eshawn Henderson is tearing it up, Carl. I mean, he really is pitching at an extraordinary level, and this is a guy last year who, he'll say it himself, struggled to find the strike zone. He was looking for strikes to get ahead of batters. He couldn't quite get there. He had a lot of walks, but he's cut down his walks by quite a bit this year, and that's what's making him so successful. 3-time Mountain West Pitcher of the Week. That's kind of hard to do. You add in the fact that Roman Angelo, his teammate, also won Mountain West Pitcher of the Week as well, and you can easily see why Fresno State has the pitching they need to contend in the Mountain West Conference. I'll also add another name to this list for baseball, Zach Morgan. Zach Morgan is hitting at a high level as a catcher as well. He's picking off players left and right. In fact, Paul Leffler, the voice of the Bulldogs on the radio, said that Zach Morgan has picked off a runner at first base, second base, and third base already this season. I saw it myself at a baseball game earlier this year. He picked off a runner at third base, a big play for them with 1 out. They were able to keep him from scoring. So I said a couple names in this tangent, but Zach Morgan, Eshawn Henderson, Roman Angelo, all guys are going to be important for the Bulldogs as they contend for a Mountain West baseball title.
Those are some key players out there, and if they keep up this momentum and just keep pushing forward, like you said, with this different type of athleticism, and on top of that, you have all these other teams, you know, the tennis team, for an example, staying top seeded in 2022 Mountain West division. I mean, so many things have happened over this past weekend and this past week while we were on spring break that you could just see so much optimism in many of these teams going forward, and you know, we'll see how they finish up the semester and how they finish up their season overall.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be a Bulldogs fan, I would say.
That's for sure.
Another Fresno State team is fighting for a championship, and it's not a part of the athletics department. It's a club team. The Fresno State men's rugby club team will be fighting for the USA Rugby Collegiate National Championship. The rugby team beat Western Washington University 52-15 to become the Western Conference champions. The national championship game will take place in Texas against the Kansas Jayhawks Rugby Club on April 30th.
Coming up after the break, we shine a spotlight on rising basketball stars in the Central Valley.
And we will give you a recap on the MLB's opening week.
We are one Fresno State, a university that celebrates the bold excellence of our students. Our Bulldogs become your child's teacher, your family's healthcare provider, your leader, your problem solver, your hero. A degree from Fresno State opens minds and opens doors. This is where bold begins.
I got the bulldog spirit up in my head.
Up in my head. Up in my head.
I got that bulldog spirit up in my head. Up in my head to say. I got that bulldog spirit deep in my heart. Deep in my heart.
Deep in my heart.
Got that bulldog spirit deep in my heart. Deep in my heart to stay.
I got that bulldog spirit.
Down in my toes. Down in my toes. Down in my toes, I got that bulldog spirit.
Down in my toes, hey!
Down in my toes to stay. I got that bulldog spirit. Up in my head, deep in my heart. Down in my toes, I got that bulldog spirit. All over me to stay. I got that bulldog spirit.
Deep in my heart.
Deep in my heart, deep in my heart. I got that bulldog spirit.
Here in the valley, our colors are blue and our waves are red. Bulldog born and bulldog bred. Generations linked forever by traditions that have stood the test of time. Inside our stadiums, we are one. This is our valley, and this year, we're doing it for you.
The future is bright for young basketball players in the San Joaquin Valley. Demetrius Porter held a two-day All-Star Showcase with players from high schools around the valley showing off their talents. The first day started with a three-point contest, followed by the Rising Stars game for freshmen and sophomore boys. The day ended with a slam dunk contest won by future Bulldog Joseph Hunter. The second day started with the girls' All-Star game. Treasure Franklin from Bullard High School made a big impression with her drives down the lane, showing that even centers can take the ball down full court and finish at the basket. The day ended with the juniors and seniors game, where another Bullard Knight, Lewan Watts, showed exactly why he is headed to Eastern Washington.
Playing my last game with some of my friends, it was amazing, man. Kind of sad though, because since 6th grade I've been with most of these players, playing against or with them.
Watts, Hunter, and more from the All-Star game will continue their journey at the collegiate level.
Derek Carr has been in the AFC longer than any other quarterback, and he will be sticking around for at least another 3 years. Derek Carr agreed to a 3-year, $121 million extension to stay with the Las Vegas Raiders. The 9-year veteran gunslinger will reunite with his former Bulldog teammate, Davante Adams, who was acquired in March from the Packers. Carr is excited to get to work, knowing that he will be a Raider for at least the next 3 years.
I've only wanted to be a Raider, and I told my agent, I said, I'm either going to be a Raider or I'm going to be playing golf. I don't want to play anywhere else.
Carr is only the third player to sign 2 $100 million contracts with the same team. The Raiders are expected to have one of the best offenses in the NFL with the new head coach, Josh McDaniels. Carr and the Raiders offseason program started last week.
MLB opening week ended on a positive note for California teams. Both the Los Angeles Dodgers and San Francisco Giants ended their weekend series by sweeping the Guardians and Reds. Respectively, both teams are tied for first in the NL West with the same record of 7-2. The Anaheim Angels defeated the Texas Rangers to bring their record to 6-4, which puts them in first place in the AL West. The Oakland Athletics are only one game behind the Angels with an even 5-5 record.
It's NBA playoff season. The Golden State Warriors, led by Jordan Poole in his playoff career high of 30 points, defeated the Denver Nuggets 123-107. On the East Coast, the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets battled in a game that had 20 lead changes and came down to the final seconds. Jason Tatum closed out the game with a game-winning buzzer-beating layup, giving the Celtics a 1-0 advantage in the series. Carl, what did you think of the first games of the NBA playoffs?
It's a very interesting offseason. I mean, obviously the big thing going into that is, not having LeBron James. Everyone's going to talk about that. But, you take away from that, these are some interesting games going into it. I mean, you had Philadelphia against Toronto, which, some we didn't mention, but that was an interesting game. James Harden saying he doesn't have anything to prove, but come on, he does have something to prove here. You have, again, Boston and the Nets going down to the final seconds. And these games are going to be something that each team will have an off day, some will have a good day. It depends on if someone could get a hot streak and really come down to make sure that they are consecutive and consistent in each of their games. I don't know about you, Gabe, but it's hard to decide who's going to come out on each division.
If you ask the random person walking down the street who's going to win the NBA title, you might get 5 or 6 different answers because that's how I think even the competitive field is. The Warriors look like contenders. The Nets look like contenders. The Bucks, the Suns. There's a lot of teams that I could see winning it all. And in the past, remember when the Warriors and Cavs used to hand off NBA Finals trophies to each other? It seemed like that way from 2015 to 2018, right? They played each other in the NBA Finals for 4 straight years, and they were the only teams that seemed to have a chance at winning it all. I'm glad where the NBA is at right now, where I can see 5 or 6 different teams winning it. And speaking of the Warriors, how different did they look with Jordan Poole in the starting lineup, or at least having a big role, as I mentioned in the read right there? That's a playoff career high in his first playoff game ever, and Curry coming off the bench and looking great from his injury. The Warriors might be a sleeper team, and it's weird to call them a sleeper considering they are 3-time NBA champs.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the comeback of Klay Thompson, I'm sorry, it was kind of hard to think about because he sit there for a year off an ACL. I mean, it's hard to go against the Warriors. They seem like a hot team right now.
And that's our show.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week to bring you more in your weekly focus on sports.